So thank you very much for sharing so generously with our esteemed, distinguished, dear guest. It was I learned a lot through the back and forth between you and Professor Casimir's questions and comments. I mean, thank you for sharing so much knowledge. You know, it's just amazing. I'm so glad. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, OpenCourseware, for recording this. You know, this is historical. I really feel this is historical, and it does have the potential, I think, to reach out to folks on both ends of the spectrum, both the Lakou end and the Jab end, both the colonized and the colonizer in many ways, in a way that can enrich all of us. So thank you for that. So now we're going to hear Tijan Bosal introduce this beautiful chapter, powerful chapter on the power and beauty of the sovereign people. And we go around the room and ask questions.
Thank you.
And discuss.
And I'm very happy to be here because I am in a real context where you feel at home. Because everything you have said up to now, even from the very beginning, give you the sense what is decolonial reading, decolonial study. Because it's something that starts with your personal position. You must know where you are. You must be aware of where you are, and from that you see the world. You know what I mean? Because in fact, this is what is your power. The possibility of seeing the world from your position, not from the position they have given. You find your position, you define your position, and from your position, you are seeing the world. And something I have written into my mind is fundamental. The use of social sciences, the raison d'etre of social sciences, is to regain, to give to those who have been dispossessed, to re-empower them. If not, I don't know why they study. I'm not there to empower those who are empowered. No, I have been disempowered, and my aim is to study, to work, so I can regain my position over myself, over my people, and for my people to move forward. Now, this implies understanding myself, understanding my people, and understanding the other. And then I move from there. So the beauty and power of the sovereign people is that we come from a set of individuals, because capitalism and the European capitalism, modern time capitalism, is based on the disaggregation of the communities. You take the communities, you make of them naked individuals, and then you give them the possibility of rejoin within your own norms. Call it syndicate, call it trade union, whatever you want, but after you make of them naked individuals. Okay. We were taken from Africa, in the case of Saint-Domingue, Haiti, at least 24 different nations. They mix them up. They mix us up in the country, and we are going to recreate ourselves. How do we do that? First of all, we create with nothing, a group, a social group, just to protect us. Because when you reach there as an enslaved person, they are going to beat you, to destroy you. When you finish working, the few time they gave you to rest, you will find consolation, you will find affection, you will find love, you will find reciprocity, you will find solidarity, you give and takes, you will find human relations. So you recreate a social group. I mean, this social group you recreate is going to have a set of principles, a set of norms, and these norms going to give way to a new individual. You're going to create a new individual according to your own norms, your own principle. And it is that new individuals that will be a power in front of the other power. So that gives you the possibility of discovering out of nothing, you're going to imagine another power. And it is so important that the one who brought you in the Caribbean or in the plantation system to exploit you is going to spend all his efforts to destroy you because you have something, and you're going to be aware of that something. For instance, they will say voodoo or whatever we do, or beer, whatever it is superstition. Okay, if it is superstition, it is useless. Let me use it. It's not doing anything. It has no solution. Why do you make so much effort to destroy it? No, I mean, so therefore you are acknowledging that. No? Another element that is important also. Granted, you want me to do that, I don't do it, you beat me up. You can't even kill me, so I can do it. But I never see you killing a donkey because it doesn't want to drink water. Because you know the donkey is an animal. You know what I mean? So but me, you're going to beat me until I'm dead. Therefore, you acknowledge I'm equal to you. If I was not equal to you, you would not beat me until I'm dead. You would do like the donkey. I let stupid men do not. No, you beat me because you know I have a will, and this will escape to you. Escape, you know, and this is my power. Okay, with that power in front of you, might, because you really have a might, no, I am going now to create myself, a being, my sovereignty, no, with nothing. No, I'm going to recreate a new society. That is the beauty of it, and this is what we have to be aware of. Now, it is not that I feel strong. No. I'm going to create a whole set of institutions. You said, I mean, a language, a religion, a villages, a set of institutions that I create to take care of myself and to reproduce myself, and also to have accountability for the members of the group. You said, I mean, so I create another universe in front of your universe. No, and your universe, since you despise me, cannot see me. You know what I mean? Even when they see me, they say, they are stupid thing niggers are doing. You see what I mean? Even when they see it, they cannot adjust it. So therefore, myself, to survive, I first learn what you have in mind, and in group, I'm going to imagine how to bypass what you have in mind to the small possibilities. Sometimes I can't, sometimes I can, but I will never lose the opportunity of doing that. This is, therefore, some people coming down here or brought down here against their will after much suffering, because you do not leave Africa as a tourist. Now you are beaten and you have to walk sometimes hundreds and hundreds of miles. They put you in circumstances you have never imagined. They put you on the boat, etc., etc. You come here, and when you come here now, they start humiliating you, doing things that are beyond imagination. No, they sell you, they stamp you, etc., etc. I will not describe all those things, but in that, I would say, infinite poverty, and destruction, you're going to reborn. This is the beauty of the sovereign people. Now, how do you do that? I say you create a community, but the community you created in the plantation itself. I mean, while you're working on the plantation, you're creating social groups, in spite of the intention of the person to call you black. Black is a colonial word. In Africa, you're not black. You can be Ashanti, you can be Nago, you can be Igbo, you can be anything but black. Because everybody is black, so black do not distinguish one to another. You see what I mean? Yeah. So you come here, and you create a little group on the plantation. Now, in that group, there are that really cannot survive in the plantation. They will run away, and you'll have a set of bandits and people living out of stealing goods, coming in and out, looking for weapons, etc., etc. They are a set of generally male Maroons. Those male Maroons and you are in contact. And at some point in time, they will, with their ladies, go and create the free village system. You see, I mean, now, from the people on the plantation, the independent fighters or brigand or whatever they call them, to the free village system, you have a constant movement of ideas and flows of going on. And this is done through the language. You know what I mean? Through the language. So you have now a whole, in the plantation system, before independence, you have a whole movement of concept, of habits, of conducts, that teach you the possibility of bypassing the system, defending yourself against the system. This is possible particularly in the larger Antilles or in Suriname or in the Guyanas, and this gives you, what I call the counter-plantation system, which is the basis for the nation. Not yet. The nation is being born, but I mean the Haitians or the Jamaicans, etc., etc. This is one line of the development. In the case, for instance, of the small island like St. Vincent, Barbados, Martinique, they have to negotiate within the system. Take Barbados is the best example because they were the seat of the Royal Navy. So you better behave yourself or they kill you, that's all. You said, so you have to learn to negotiate within their system, But this is the same basic position. They are different because the condition in which they are negotiating are not the condition in which, for instance, the Surinamese is negotiating. And the Surinamese have the Amerindian who will show them how the Amazonian, etc., etc. Now, they are, in any event, this is what we are doing. We prepare ourselves in the negotiation. We create a group of people who can see another reality, create another universe, and a universe that the powerful, so-called, tend to erase. And we confront those two universes. Now, when the imperial colonial countries enter in conflicts, they create a possibility for you to break in. You said, so there is no difference between the Haitian and the Jamaican except what I told you, what happened outside. There is no difference between the Haitian, the Jamaican, and the Barbadian, except that one is in a small island, which is Barbados, is something like 300 times smaller than the whole island DR in Haiti. Because we have an island in front of Port-au-Prince, La Gonave, which is twice bigger than Barbados. An island only. The country is something 70 times. And if you put the DR, so you can imagine the possibility of negotiation in this island and those of the Bajans are quite different. Not to speak of the condition in which Barbados was settled. Barbados was settled by couples, by British who came with their wives. You said, so that one thing. They do not have a lot of people of color. They use They have, but they do not have a lot. That's one condition. But we are all, in fact, the basic set of position of self-respect, sovereignty, group autonomy. This is what is our base. So the beauty is that in the worst condition of living, thing we could not possibly imagine that is happening. I do not want to enter in the relation between the white males and their enslaved and their kids and their daughters, what they have done. No. We can just imagine, that they think they are all powerful. They do whatever they want. They destroy themselves, but that's another problem. But forget about that. We simply create our world out of nothing, and it's a Caribbean world, when I say out of nothing. We do have resources we remember from Africa, but there are individuals who remember that. We have an advantage, though, over the First Nations in America. The First Nations, all the Jews also, they are people that were exploited, but they were a nation that were exploited. You see, they have been forced to witness the destruction of their nation. You see, the Mayas, the Aztec, or the Incas, they can see the Spaniard coming and they have lived that. In our case, no. For instance, assuming that they get into Yoruba country or Igbo country, they beat them and they take you and they bring you here, you would say, oh, okay, I lost. That's bad luck. They got me. But the country, nobody can beat the Igbos, even if it is not true. But you will imagine that you have not witnessed your society being humiliated, your kings being yes, humiliated, etc., etc. So we have at least that. We start with a local experience from the day we came here in America, no, and from that local experience we move forward. So we can create a new society, a new world with our experience, not with, we do not carry all the tradition of our society, no? And we do not carry the deuil, the sorrow. For instance, there are some wonderful scenes among the First Nation, either Michoacan or Bolivia, where they are playing the conquest. I mean, the Amerindians are playing the conquest. You see, I mean, you can see all the sadness in the winning of the alien over, you know. We don't have that possibility. No, and in general, our musical production is quite different from theirs. So this is what I call the beauty and of our nation, what we are. We have witnessed, what we have created. The problem is that we have to make our people aware of that. And this is what the system and what Professor De Graaf was showing wants you not to see. You see, for instance, the beauty of Creole. Creole is switching the meaning of key function. One of my great friends and professor, Guillermo Bonfil from Mexico, he said, Indian Negroes are colonial concept. There were no Indian in America before Christopher Columbus made his mistakes. No, Negroes that you call Negroes, I don't know if I am a Negro. I mean, that's meaningless that I am a Negro, etc., etc. Those are key concepts of colonialism. They create race. A set of languages in Africa has no word for race. And in Haiti, race means family, according to Old French. No? As is the race of De Graaf, the race of Casimir. Say, watch out with the race of Rodriguez. Eh? They are really bad people, all of them. They are witches. You know, but they mean the family, not the race, what the West Coast race. So we came and we create another concept. And as I don't know if you know, but as everybody knows, and I give the example so many times, whites do not mean what it means in French or in English. Whites, for instance, I have a very good friend of mine from Jamaica. I say, when I do something in my computer, I say, I trick the white man. But I don't mean white man, the man who is white. I mean, I trick the technology, the dominant one, the one who want the algorithm to work that way. I will make it work another way. You know what I mean? This is what I call the white man. And in fact, in my proposition, white means in Haiti, the responsible of the primitive accumulation of capital. I mean, it means the dominant capitalist fellow who came and take whatever he sees that he is and he take it if he wants it, period. No, he has been, that's why. So, for instance, if he comes home, they will say, there is a Negro asking for you.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Period.
So if Tom goes to Haiti, Tom becomes a Negro.
A Negro.
Because Negro means human being in Haiti.
Period. And the reverse is true too. My daughter is like you all, my son also. And they are all white because they are strangers. They can't speak Creole. They don't know the habits. They know the habits. They have to, you know what I mean? It's not discriminatory. It's just simply they do not know what's going on. They do not know the rules of the game. No? That's it. So you have changed the key concept of the dominant system, and you have created your world where tout monde c'est monde. Everybody is a person. You have created the word moon. You know what I mean? The word moon has nothing to do with white, black, male, female. It just means person. Every person is a person and should be respected as such. You know what I mean? This is something you have done when you are in the tréfonds, in the depth of misery. No? To get out and to create that group that can survive oppression, no, you had to erase that. This is why the Igbo disappeared, the Congo disappeared, the Hausa disappeared. No, you become a moon. No, and you have to be, and as far as I know in Haiti, the worst of all sin is to destroy life. You have to respect life, period. You don't cut a tree for nothing. You don't kill an insect for nothing. No. That is a sin. This is what is a sin. So the beauty of the sovereign people is that it has been able to invent its sovereignty. You see, I mean, and invent itself as distinct from. And this is where also it has been able to show you, make you see what power means, in fact. Power doesn't mean that you're stronger, you have more strength. No, no, no. That is not really power. This is appearance of power. Because your strengths, you have it because I am powerful. You see, I like to tell my friend, well, in fact, that's an idea that is in Eric Williams. He did develop, no? Let's see. The Haitians, to beat the Haitian, Napoleon sent 40,000 persons. And they lost. So we were stronger, 40,000 plus one. At least, because they lost. So if you want to know what power is, ask us, because we beat him. You see what I mean? You must understand what power is. Obviously, in Haiti, they are destroying the use of Creole. They do not want Creole, as you have seen, no? Because Creole is powerful. You must be aware of this power that you control, you manage, and you are the one who invent it. When I say something in French, the French Academy will decide, or in Spanish, the Royal Academy, the Academia Real, will decide if it is correct, if you can say it or if you cannot say it. If I'm talking Jamaican, that's the shanty town that will decide if this can be said or not. It's not the government, not even the government. It is us. Us in our most inner existence, without authority. It is the agreement between us that will decide that what is, for instance, a shacking up, if this is acceptable or not. It is not an authority. It is the consensus between the few people. This is what sovereignty is. So I will stop there.
Wow.
Oh boy, merci.
You know, what you said about white reminds me of James Baldwin. He has a famous statement.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That white is a metaphor for power. There's no such thing as whiteness. White is Chase Manhattan Bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for this, amazing summary of your entire approach, really, to Haitian history.
Thank you.
So, all right. So
it's a lot like the white thing for me. I hear it as it's a political position, sort of your relationality to the world, to things, to land, to food, to people, rather than the color of your skin. But
yes, indeed.
Your mental state of how you see the world.
okay, so you can go around the room and ask questions. I saw that actually Gabby had a hand up very quickly. I think Marilyn, okay, all right.
What was interesting that stood out to me in the reading was cultural homogenization and how...
Come again.
Cultural homogenization.
Cultural imagination.
Homogenization. Cultural homogenization.
Of how, like, customs, habits, and aspirations were not pursued by the racist and Eurocentric public authorities, but rather productions carried out by the sufferers. And I thought it was super interesting to think of it that way, because I personally always thought of, like, oh, they classify us, like, we're classified as black because there's a racist system that sees us all as, like, just one person and not, like, different ambitions. But I never thought of it as, like, a positive light, like how you spun it, how it was an aspect of our survival. We had to unify under this one formed culture. And I actually thought that was interesting, and I was wondering, how did you get to that point of realizing that we formed this one homogenized culture not out of just simply out of spite, in some cases, out of survival and out of spite? How did you get to this point? That's what
I see your point. I think now you make me see that. I think I should go back to my friend who I just mentioned, Guillermo Bonfil. Guillermo, an anthropologist, he said, Indian is an invention of the Spaniards. When you take an Inuit, you know Inuit, no? And you take a Tupi or a Mapuche or Maya or an Inca, and you call all them Indios. What do you mean? Why you want them to be Indios? I mean, what does somebody who live his life in snow has to do with a Tupi or Seminole, whatever it is? Because you want them to work and you homogenize them in your imagination to work and to exploit them the way you want. You invent that life. Okay. So this is one thing he put. And I start saying that therefore is a colonial concept. White is a colonial concept. How does the Haitian call himself? No? And I found in that book of de Vaté, our first Haitian historian, no, he called the book The Colonial System Unveiled. It is in English. It's 90 pages the book has. No? And I realized in these 90 pages, de Vaté used 100 times the word malheureux. So malheureux. And we call ourselves malheureux. And malheureux can be a rich man or a poor man. It means you're fragile. You are alone, you are vulnerable. No? So even if you reach, you got figure malaria, no? Because you can come, fell down and break your leg. You know what I mean? Not only that, the importance of the malaria is that I was in Africa going to a picnic with my girlfriend, and all of a sudden came some bandits for no reason. They picked me up, and here I am, my girlfriend in St. Vincent as a slave, me in Cuba as another slave. No? We have done nothing to deserve that soul, that destiny. No? We are the malheureux. No? And up to now, today, the Haitian define himself as malheureux. And this is why my great friend and translator, Laurent Dubois, take from Bob Marley the word sufferer. We are sufferers. It is not that we are a proletarian who came from and we could move through a social mobility outside of the proletariat. We do not have a common history with the bourgeoisie. The bourgeois and the proletaire in Europe come from the bourg, from the city, and they fought together, for instance, against the nobility and the clergy. And after the French Revolution, they split when capitalism started moving. But they have the same history. They have the same language. They have the same religion. They have a whole hundreds of... No, that's not my case. I just... Poof, they put me together in front of that planteur. And I'm a malheureux because I've done nothing to deserve that those suffering things that happen. So when I find the word suffer, I say, oh boy, that's it. And this is the Creole who gave it to me, malheureux. A Haitian do not say I'm poor or I'm no, malheureux. And you can call anybody malheureux. Can't figure malheureux. Look at that poor lady. You know what I mean? Full stop, but that has nothing to do. Okay, that means also, if I get out of the malheur, of that misery, which is not something that came from my will or from my effort, it's an accident. An accident put me in it, an accident will take me out of it. My mother and my father could work their life. They will not make of me a professor. Is one day an accident, a friend of mine was minister, or theirs were minister or what, they found a scholarship and I get out of it. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm not going to lose the... But the fact of the matter is, you don't get out of it. You don't get into it because you're poor. You don't get out of it because you work. Therefore, you should respect all other malheureux. So the respect, you know what I mean, is basic all over. In Jamaica, when I was there, no, they greet you, respect. That's the greeting. I mean, respect. That's the greeting, because I may be very rich, I may be very poor, but I earn the same respect. You see what I mean? So this is how I would say, I think I get to the word malheureux, sufferer, because it's just in our language. So, to my mind, for social scientists, no, you should be aware and know and study your language. If you have an hypothesis, you cannot put it in your own local language. Those of us who have two languages, you said, I mean, it's not working. It has to be translatable to our language, because we're working in, if we work directly in our language, obviously, that come out like, I don't know if I answer your question.
No, you did great. Thank you.
Can I? Oh,
So were you going to speak to
Well, I just
piggyback
wanted-
on the
yeah,
point? Yeah.
something. If-
Continue. Oui.
Yeah. No, just the concept of being a malgré.
Malgré. Malheureux.
La malheureuse.
Maléré.
Malgré. Yeah. It brings me to think about like the wider idea of even like the rational movement of like thinking that we are powerful, which is the concept of capitalism, that we are so powerful, you work hard, you get somewhere. But you know, most people who work really, really hard are still
Malheureux.
yeah. So, but it kind of for me brings a question that I like to maybe hear your thoughts on, is the idea of poverty. What is poverty? If poverty is still a definition based on acquiring property, it's even like the relationship to also relation to land. Like if you're rich, if you own land, rather than if you have relationship to land. And also the idea that we come in and out of circumstances often by influences that are outside of our own doing. Like I was going on a picnic with my girlfriend and then suddenly I'm an enslaved person in Cuba. Like this was not my own doing.
No.
Which is in specifically antithesis of the whole capitalist approach of everything is your own doing, which doesn't humble itself to other. I'm just bringing it up to say, you know, how do we provide a different paradigm or perspective to look at what is poverty and what is the human condition really, in terms of, you know, the arrogance of capitalism, which continues to destroy our countries today. Like it is Haiti today is destroyed by neoliberal
being the poorest
policy.
country. I think this is where I find the importance of the decolonial studies, because you should see capitalism from your angle. With all due respect for the capitalists, they are a set of liars.
Why does that?
I'm going to tell you why. They declare private property is sacred. No? They came here in America, they took everything that they can see. They took it literally. No? In Haiti, they took Saint-Domingue. And the king of Saint-Domingue of Spain will give the third of Saint-Domingue to the French. And they declared to me private property is sacred. Who gave them Saint-Domingue? How could they take it for themselves? You said, I mean, use the Seminole and this thing presented by Peck. No, so, I mean, you come there, you take my land, and you take that man, and you're telling me it's yours. How do you manage? I don't know if you see that documentary of Raoul Peck on the...
It's called Exterminate All the Brutes.
Exterminate all the brutes. You know what I mean? The brutes come, they take the country. No, they take over the country. They take all the wealth. When they finish with the wealth in the Caribbean, they go in Mexico, they go in Peru, they take everything they had. No? And they start their capitalism. You know what I mean? They start developing. And they're telling me private property is sacred, that we have to respect that. How come? If you start lying, if you seize what is not yours, no, but you declare that God give me half of this. Whose God? Yours or mine? What do I have to see with that? You see? So the question of poverty, you impoverish me. Because you define wealth the way you want, you take it, and you say I have to respect it. No, and you have a set of institutions, school, etc., to prove to me that I deserve to be poor. For instance, I am black, I'm the son of Ham. God sort of really lies. You said, I mean, not only that, this question of Ham, there is a verse, I don't have it in mind, but that is put, where in the Exodus, no, it said, if you take a person, you sell the person, you deserve death. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, they're going to say the son of Ham's well. So they are a set of liars, and I do not have to believe that, and I do not have to respect that. No, and studies made will show that, I mean, I'm talking about Madju, one of a historian who was member of the oligarchy for the whole 19th century. He said the system is corrupt because corruption made the colonial system. So you cannot expect today the authorities of Haiti not to be corrupt. Now, same thing in the US. The system is based on corruption. How could you take the land of the Indians, you go and kill Indians, you know what I mean? And now you make them poor, you create them, you create their poverty. Not only you create their poverty, you start ruling them with English when they were being ruled, they are etc., etc., etc. So I think poverty and wealth, and this is why also we must be aware of what we call wealth. Wealth is what allows us to survive, to be, to exist. This is where imagination comes, invention comes, all non-material knowledge will come. I'm not belittling technology because you have done something with the wealth you have taken, and I respect that, no? But this is your interest. Now my job is, with my imagination, try to use your technology to foster, to empower my people. You see what I mean? I mean, this is how more or less I see it, no? Haiti is the poorest country in the world according to the establishment's views. But as I told you, Lloyd Best, this famous economist from Trinidad, say Haiti is the richest country in America, according to Lloyd Best, no? Etc. He wrote a long article on that. I could look for it, no? But to show you that you have it's not that we like poverty, we like whatever, you know, I mean, no, that's not the point. The point is that you respect yourself, you like yourself, you protect yourself. And Gleason is quite clear also on that, you know what I mean? This is and you must be aware of that. This is the problem. Don't let people divert your attention toward those material things. It is important. I have to drink water and clean water. I cannot, you know what I mean, do without it, no? But it is not that make me. As we say in Haiti, you're not going to have that to the graveyard with you. You're going to go to the graveyard naked.
So let's go around to let's write down your question, and then yeah.
I have like 4 questions into one.
Enlève le masque.
Oh, I have like 4 questions into one, but like they all center around the counter-plantation system. So, like,
around the counter-plantation system.
Yeah. So do you think that the fact that France was, you know, a master away from home helped cultivate the counter-plantation system? And like, you know, coming from like a Dominican person, like someone who was governed by Spain, do you think this is also why Haiti was able to be successful in this system? Meanwhile, the DR, we still have like haciendas and, you know, modern plantations. And thinking about success, how successful was the counter-plantation system? And like, are we measuring success on the basis of, do our people remembered, or are people knowledgeable, or are we measuring on have we managed to like dismantle the capitalist society that the Pearl of the Antilles was built upon?
I'm going to answer the first half, and then you reformulate the second half.
Okay.
The hacienda could be the proper translation for the word plantation. Mm-hmm. So the French never had the counter-plantation system. Mm-hmm. The French has an hacienda. No, it organized the hacienda properly as a capitalist system, a rational system where every single input, oriented toward an output called a merchandise, a commodity, to produce more commodities. That is the plantation, the hacienda. Now, to save some money, the owner of the hacienda or the plantation have some what we call provision grounds, some konukos. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where they won't pay you, they have you working on the konuko. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you on the konuko, on the provision grounds, you're going to organize the laku, the yard. You're going to organize a system of solidarity and reciprocity where you protect your people. So you're making use of one move of the dominant system, for your own ends. We call that you utilize the dominant system to serve your own ends. So therefore, the counter-plantation system, is born within the plantation system, within the hacienda, and when 1791, let's say, when 1789, when the French Revolution started, and the planters, the hacienderos, start fighting each other, no, you start developing your conucos, no? And this is when the nation is going really to take its structure, but on a national level, no? And since I'm there, what is important is that the counter-plantation system, the villages, it's a village system. No, the villages are isolated. No, they are microclimates. They produce certain goods. If you're in the mountain, you can have spices, you can have fruits, etc. If you're in the flatland, you have mango, you have banana, etc. In the mountain, you have coffee. So you have to exchange, no? And you are going to create, this is our case, the internal market, because there was no internal market in colonial time. What was important was only the export of the commodity. So you create the counter-plantation system, you create the internal market, and who manages internal market? The female higglers. The women who are going to tide of the nation. The women tide of the nation, not the men. The men can work whatever it is, but those who are responsible to moving goods and moving money are female up to now. You know what I mean? Your parents, when they send money home, they didn't send it to any man, they send it to a woman. Because she managed money, she managed resources, no? So she will be the one who will tie up what I call the three pillars of the nation: community, internal market, and women. But what tied them up? Creole language. You said, I mean, you don't see a Higgler speaking standard English. No, Higgler speak rough Jamaican English, you know what I mean? And this is what is sustained the nation. On top of that, an oligarchy is going to. Okay, now give me the second part of your question.
So the second question was just like, I mean, you kind of answered it already, but how successful was the counter-plantation system? And are we measuring success on the basis of like, do our people remember their, their history? Are they knowledgeable? Or are we measuring on how we managed to dismantle like the capitalistic society that was established in the Pearl, the Antilles, or Haiti?
Wonderful. The counter-plantation system explained the whole 19th century Haiti. No? How we can measure his success? We started independence with maximum 350,000 people. We ended up the 19th century with 2 million people. You know what I mean? We multiplied. But this is not codified by the government. The government want to recreate the plantation, want to recreate haciendas. No, they will not talk about that. But the fact of the matter is, we did that. Not only did we do that, no, the Haitians, real, I call them Haitian, Guinean Haitians, no, the real Haitians, no, start absorbing the oligarchy, no. Because the oligarchy has no use for French, because they had no moral relation. So they start speaking Creole, and they had no, it is until 1860 that the Catholic Church acknowledged the existence of Haiti and start sending priests, and 12 or 15, whatever it is. So the people have to use in the spirituality of Obeah or Voodoo. You see, I mean, so they start being absorbed by. Now, what makes that possible? It's not that we are so special, no. At that time, the big empires of the West were entering in their imperial colonial time. They are conquering Africa, conquering the South, etc. So they could do, the Caribbean economy becomes totally secondary. And you had beet sugar, etc., etc. You see what I mean? So they forget about us, thanks God. So we could develop, you see? So, for instance, if you take the case of, let's say, to come back to Barbados, boy, good thing there is no virgin here, he will challenge me, stop thinking about Barbados. But in Barbados, for instance, the planters had a hold on the land. And the production of sugarcane after emancipation was higher than before. To tell you the level of exploitation of the Bajans. To such an extent, they were so attacked by hunger that they start migrate to Guyana and then to build the Panama Canal. Same thing with Martinique, where the planters could have a hold on the land. So they had to migrate outside. No, not only that, the migration to the Panama Canal, to the oil field of Venezuela, etc., was such that some countries in the Caribbean had no more men. You have only male, old male, kids, and a set of, and Eric Williams even pointed that out, homosexuality started developing. To such an extent, for instance, in St. Lucia, the word zami, friend, means lesbian. No, I was making studies in Creole, no, in Creole Trinidadian, and I said, oh, so-and-so is my zami, my friend. And the St. Lucian said, you don't say that. You can't, he can't be your friend. I said, why? Friends mean lesbian. Because the word become normal. It's not that lesbian in the sense you to deface or to diminish. No, that's normal. The two ladies live together, they are zami. I mean, that was normal because there was no male figure, adult male, in several islands. Eric Williams even mentioned that. And some Caribbean islands their population start diminishing. You see, I mean, in the case of Jamaica, this is the moment of the migration toward Costa Rica, toward the moment of Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? Because there is no way you can attack the land of the British owners. In the case of Haiti, we didn't go frontally toward the land property. No, we start occupying it, and the state didn't have strength enough to kick us out of the land. No. There are several elements. Well, in the DR, I think something like that happened because plantation really started with Trujillo. You know what I mean? The American came and they needed Trujillo to help them, and you had land. No, not only that, the Dominican Republic, I think, developed a set of cattle raising to complete, to serve the colonial French plantation system. No, they will sell cattle. No, so there is a whole tradition of cattle raising. And when Haitians start their migration, they start, since they were basically agriculturalists, no, you say peasants, they start planting, and this annoyed Trujillo because anything he made to occupy this land, if he gave land, the Dominicans go toward cattle raising. And the one who were taking profit of the land given was Haitian origin. People, that was their tradition, etc., that created certain conflicts with the state, because the capital, as they say, with the eastern part of the country, not the central part of the country. And incidentally, I don't know if you know that, most of our heroes of this period were from, if not from the Dominican, from the border, Hench. This Las Caobas, this part in between the two countries, now this is where we had most strongest opponent to the U.S. occupation. Yes, indeed. Charmaine Peralta, the name is Peralta, in fact, not Peralta. You know what I mean? We say Peralta, no, but he's Peralta, you know, etc., etc. Did I answer your second question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had two questions. One of them was based on the counter-plantation system.
No,
I had two questions. One of them was based on the counter-plantation system, but my question was, would you say that the counter-plantation system was an idea given to the enslaved by the colonizers, given that because I know in history books, they tell you that the colonizers made the enslaved plant their own food to sustain themselves. So I was wondering, like, do you think that's an idea that they were given in a sense, or was that just a byproduct?
That's one.
That's one question. And my second question is, while I was reading the chapter, I remembered a podcast I was listening to, and one of the guests was saying that they believe that Haiti should have waited before that Haiti should not have done the revolution when they did it.
We're too early.
Right. So my question is, what do you think about that? Because in my opinion, I could see if they had waited, it would change like the trajectory of the slave revolutions that came after. But I just wanted to know what you thought about that.
Okay, I waited too early. Listen, first of all, the counter-plantation system. I call it counter-plantation system because it's not a classical peasantry. Simply for that. Because the classical peasantry is self-sufficient. If you take, for instance, Mesoamerica or even Central Europe, no, the peasants produce even their instrument of production, instrument of production, la coa, no? Okay. Not only that, they have even their textile. There is no more sophisticated textile than the Guatemalan textile. You know, I mean, they weave their thing in something great. But if you are an enslaved, there's a certain way of things you cannot produce yourself. You know, like a button, a instrument, machete, because you don't have any. While the Africans were very skillful in dealing with iron, but in the Caribbean, where are you going to find iron? So you have a peasantry, in quote, that must produce an excess to exchange for the other good. So it's not exactly a peasantry, it's why I call it the counter-plantation system. Now, I don't think the system comes from that has nothing to do with the planters, because the planter cannot imagine a type of relation, family relation like we have. First of all, to understand really our family, we must take into account the fact that the slave has no gender. I mean, they have sex, but no gender. I mean, like cattle have no gender, no? So the first creation of the counter-plantation system will be the invention of women. We create our women, we create our gender, we create our men. We have to imagine a form of structure where that female and that male can function. It did not function under slavery. It functioned in the counter-plantation system. No? Now, we create also the form of a pairing, mariage, no? The form of, because do we have a I don't know, monoparent, monogamy? Do we have polygamy? Do we have, I mean, that's, up to now we cannot solve that question. Let me tell you an anecdote.
Nobody can.
Particularly in our countries. For instance, I was telling my wife, my companion, that the young lady working by me is telling that so-and-so of his friend is not there because the husband went to visit his married woman. No, so her friend is available. She can visit her friend because the husband of her friend go to see her married woman. So I tell my wife, if I say you my married woman, what would you say? Say, I kill you. Because the fact of assuming that the companion has a married woman means that they are polygamy. And she doesn't feel any bad about that. She's living in polygamy, and the first lady who married the man is the married woman. And she's also the woman. And for the married woman, don't you believe that this means, for the ladies, that means, no, that means the fellow is not there all the time to bother them, period. They can do their thing, they organize their life, you know what I mean, simply, and they have some sexual partner when they need. Or they arrange themselves. It's a different set conception of family. You said, I mean, not only that, when you have a quarrel, you have a conflict, the lady who is the weakest person in the couple, she is not going toward the husband to help her. She go toward the eldest brother. You know what I mean? She look in her family who will protect her, not in the family of the husband. She may, but that's not necessary. What is necessary is that the husband, the head of her family, the eldest brother or whoever is the head must come out. If the husband comes, that will help, but that's not the point. She go to the. So we have another concept organization which is not codified because we are so brainwashed by the Catholic Church. We're looking for couples all over, and we're saying the men are so promiscuous, they don't take care of their kids. It's not the father. Well, I won't give more anecdote. I was going to give you another one. But okay, the other one is the following. I was teaching in Congo with my wife. We were both teachers, no? And one of the essay that my wife received said, my eldest father was sleeping under the tree. My wife said, what's that? So we had a Congolese living with us. He said, listen, no, what is an eldest father? He has a youngest one. And the Congolese start laughing like hell. It takes 5 minutes before he answered. Say, yes, because the word for father is the same for uncle. That means the eldest brother of his mother. You know what I mean? So he's eldest father. And in Haiti, everybody call me father. When I go southern Mexico, they call me abuelo, grandfather. You know what I mean? Everybody call me abuelo. And you know, my abuelo let me do that. In Haiti, father. To such an extent, the police stop me and say, father, give me your license. I say, just a minute, my son. How come you call me son? I say, but you just call me father. But he doesn't make that like that. You see, I mean, these are definitions that are contextual, and we use it. But this is not codified, and the state do not want to hear from that, because the state have to be at par with the international community. You see, I mean, and there is no way you make them respect that. And I give the story to Professor de Graaf of that friend of mine who is member of the Great Commission of Human Rights. Now, when we say they should make laws for the people who shack up, he told me, shacking up cannot be object of law because it is a crime. I mean, you can imagine a lawyer saying that.
A human rights lawyer.
Human rights, somebody of my, you know, a little bit younger than me. I mean, but this is what he received at school.
But aren't we also talking about the difference between citizenship, being a citizen, which is what the state wants us to be, citizens,
yeah,
and then being a people of a laku or a community?
Yes, exactly.
Like calling you father, not calling you citizen.
Citizen, in our case, in our tradition, is the landowner who has a certain number of enslaved. Those are active citizens. And the others are passive citizens.
But that's like what we're all being pushed to become, less of community people and more of citizens.
No, but the people do not want to be citizens either. They do not want the state. The state never did anything for them since they exist. They start existing. I mean, they don't want to participate.
I mean, I hope so, but I mean, more people want to be citizens is a problem. In the world, I think.
No, I'm talking about local history. For in the world, I don't know.
There's a question that Yana asked about. Was it too early?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Okay. First of all, at least in sociology, you don't decide what's going to happen. Society moves. No, and we had an opportunity we went through. We were not asked to do. For instance, Duvate speak of the Haitians in spite of the first Haitian. Now, talking about the set of freedmen, emancipated person, who wanted to go and to be French, and who actually maintained French up to now as the key of Haiti. But Napoleon has decided to kill them or to deport them. You know, so they had to fight with the Maroons for independence. No, so he called them les Haitian in spite of themselves, forced Haitian. And those Haitians were very important in the fight for independence, together with the Maroons. If not, we will have a Maroon society and Bush Negroes like in Suriname, and then they would conquer us again. No, so they were important. Nonetheless, they didn't choose to fight France. France forced them to fight them. That's one aspect. Second aspect, which is very, very, very important, when most people are saying Haiti was independent too soon, and not anybody said that. I'm talking about Aimé Césaire, I'm talking about Derek Walcott. You know what I mean? People who say, how could Haiti so rich, it's so poor now, that's not possible. They have been independent too much, no? Well, okay, I'm not saying what is the level of living in the other countries of the Caribbean, because I can say the same thing for the US. I don't think the US is that good either, but okay. I grant whatever they want, I grant them that. But what they do not take into account is the fact that the Haitians, by being independent in 1804, protected the Haitian from death. Let me tell you the circumstances. By 1803 or 02 or 01, but anyway, before Haiti became independent, Napoleon gave the order to kill all the blacks who were rebel and to repeople the islands. But he didn't give the order. He started implementing this order in Guadeloupe by General Richepens. He started killing blacks, killing them. And the Guadeloupeans who had started the revolution, when they realized they are dying, no, they decided, okay, let's try to live another day, so we will fight tomorrow. No? And they stopped fighting and they surrendered and they were re-enslaved. No, because they were fighting against re-enslavement. Okay. When they stopped fighting, they found that 10% of them were already killed. You see, I mean, so they were about to kill them. In the case of Haiti, they start the same thing. At such a point that the Poles who he had sent to fight us, no, they were Poles, they were peasants, no, realizing that, they said, no way, we're not participating in killing civilians and kids. We didn't come here for that, and they move and fight with the Haitians. And this is also another reason why Dessalines declared that the Poles were black, because this is what we call black. It's not being black tinted. Okay, so Haiti became independent, and Napoleon could not kill the Haitians to repeople the nation. In the countries that remain colonies, no, that were not independent so soon, no, as I just told you, you had a set of out-migration because you had hungers in Martinique, hungers in Barbados, great hungers, because the white people, Barbados is a typical case, intensified the exploitation of their former enslaved, no, and produced much more without introducing new technology. You see, Barbados was producing more than Cuba, no, when Cuba had production with new technology. So they increased the exploitation of the Bajans, and more Bajans died in Barbados, and more Bajans had to leave the country in conditions that were very similar to the slave trade. You see what I mean? So it is, you didn't choose to be independent. The opportunity comes, there is a crack in the system, and you move, no, and you establish yourself. No? But hadn't you done that, what would happen? You know what I mean? Because now that gives us one way out. Haitians become independent. We multiply the population, etc., etc., etc. But our development is based on inner management of our inner system, no? While we do not have one thing the Bajans have, or the Jamaicans also, they know how to negotiate with the other person. We don't know that up to now. It is now that we are learning what happened with the West. You know, when the American occupied Haiti, the president of Haiti, Dartignave, had no idea of what the Americans were up to. He thought they came to help us. He could not imagine they came to exploit us. You can imagine a fellow president of the Republic has no idea of the occupant. Not only that, the other day, when the UN head of mission visited the general headquarters of the army, no, in the general headquarters of the army, all the big chiefs of the U.S. occupation were there as founder of the Haitian army. He said, where have you found an independent country where the occupant is put as the creator of the army, of the national army? You can imagine Jamaica's headquarters of the army, with all the British there who created the army, for God's sake. At least take them off, you know what I mean? But in Haiti, up to now, they had that. No, not up to now, because I've seen end of this army, no? But to tell you, no, the situation. So, is Haiti independent too early or not? Okay, I don't know. Ask, as Vate would say, ask those who died. You know what I mean? On the boat going to, and the life of the Caribbean people in Panama during the construction of the life. There's a wonderful documentary made here in the U.S. on the Caribbean people building the Panama Canal. Oh boy, you want to cry. You want to cry. And up to now, they are protesting. You know what I mean? The way they pay them, the way they treat them, how they die. I mean, in Culebra, no? Building the Panama Canal. Because you should not forget that the 19th century is the time of Jim Crow laws here. And those who are building the canal, they are the Jim Crow fellows. You see what I mean? I mean, we just have when the black North American, when African Americans start voting, to give you an idea what happened 50 years earlier in countries that were not even America. You see, I mean, this is how, you can imagine what was going on there, no? So, was Haiti independent too early? I mean, are we comparing what is left of Barbados because we let a set of Barbadians died? Because this is what happened. Barbados is the country in the Caribbean, at least compared to Haiti, where even everybody has secondary school diploma. Everybody. In Haiti, I think we can't count them with your hand. And those who have it, we don't know how bad is that instruction, in education, schooling is. You said, I mean, so obviously, this allows certain Bajans to go forward, but how many of them died? How many of them are not there? You said, I mean, obviously, I'm sure that the state will not speak too much about the suffering. Martinique knew hunger, while Haiti was at the time in what Manigat called, one of our historians called le bonheur vivrier, the village happiness. You know what I mean? We had full-fledged village happiness. No? And the knowledge, without the state building one hospital, just the knowledge of the people, which was not too much. They could go further, but anyway, that was enough to multiply the population by 5. And not only that, there is no country in the whole America where you have a normal increase of the population, natural increase of the population. All of them increase their population through migration coming from Europe. And at this 19th century, when they were migrating toward Latin America or South Africa, etc., I want to know why they were leaving their country. Not because they have too much. Why the Italians left Italy? Why the Spaniard left Spain, the Basque, etc.? Why the Dutch and the British left in the 19th century when the Industrial Revolution is taking place, when you have capitalism developing itself and conquering the whole world? What was the level of living? The number of Swedish people who went from Sweden to the US. No? And you can see their photo when they're showing their migrants. Killing Indians, okay, but listen, if you are so well fed in Sweden, you're not coming here to kill Sweden, to kill Indians, stay home. You know what I mean? So all those things, they are not spoken. This is not spoken. And in that time, the Haitians were multiplying. You know what I mean? This is another idea of wealth to answer Sylvia. Wealth, what is wealth?
My question? So, I'll say like my general question and then give a little bit of background as to how I got there. But it seems very general, but my question is like, what is your why? And the way I got to that was like, I think.
No, you say what is your why?
Your why, like why you're doing this, why you have this like power and things like this. The way I got to this question was, I think, like every week we do readings, someone presents, and while it is based on the readings, it's so based on themselves as well. And I feel like I've learned so much about all the people in this class and like what is their why and like why they're here, what they take from like every reading and stuff like that. So I wanted to know like specifically and personally, what is your why?
My why?
Yeah.
You mean, eh? You mean. Let me tell you.
That's a good question. I love it.
Yeah, because decolonial study implies that you position yourself.
That's
you
right.
See yourself.
Absolutely.
It's a long story. You know, I'm very old. My why is long.
How old are you, Sean?
84.
84. That's what I thought. 1938. In one of the interviews, you said that it's important to know when you were born. 1938.
First, so I belong to a generation that come exactly after the war. I'm born in 38, though the Second World War is starting, no? And I start seeing, discovering reality after the war in 1946, which is the time exactly when we have what we call the 1946 revolution. This 1946 revolution is the consequence of the 1915 U.S. occupation. When the U.S. occupied Haiti, They occupied Haiti with two things, the big stick in one hand, no, and on the other hand, their Jim Crow policy. So you can imagine they reintroduced in Haiti the whole color problem, no? This is when Price Must come with the Ainsi par la langue en vaudou, etc. And when you have the negritude issue being brewed in Europe and in Haiti, and you have Duvalier and what we call negrisme, no, going on, no, to answer the opposition in the country where the Americans were putting light-skinned people all over, etc.
So Jean-Pierre Mars, to give some background, was a scholar who gave the idea that, look, we have to go back to Africa to understand who we are as Haitians. So Africa is beautiful, black is beautiful, and that was in opposition to the Americans that came in and that were very racist. So that's what he's referring to as negritude. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Jean-Pierre Mars is a big son of big landowners in the countryside, like Peralt, you know what I mean? Because it's good to not to put everybody in one bag. Now, he's a latifundista, a big landowner, no, but he is proud of his position, of his what he is, no? And he's a doctor, he's a diplomat, so anyway. So in 1946, end of the war, who is, well, the war ended a little bit earlier, who is president is a light-skinned Lescaut. No? Therefore, the students, oh boy, okay. The students made a so-called revolution, and which said Haiti is a black country, the president has to be black. It cannot be whatever, etc., etc. But they use the term black, which is a colonial concept. No, you know what I mean? And you had as president a black fellow, Dumancet Estimé, who is a big landowner also. You said, I mean, so you are going to have a possibility of development, because that's the epoch when the U.S. come with the idea of development, Eisenhower, etc., a Truman. When development, so they are going to take a whole set of policies toward development. We have to develop the country to make the country capitalist, modern, modernize the country, etc., etc. So that's the period when I am going to school. I mean, during that period, okay. So, to jumping over plenty many things, here I come, I found a scholarship, and I'm studying in Mexico. So I want to know why is it that we are so poor? After such a wonderful economy, a wonderful revolution, after such a wonderful independence, how come we are poor? No, and I start studying that, and I wrote my license, my my license. This is my first level, not before master.
Bachelor's.
My bachelor thesis on the Republic of Haiti, where I went through the history, trying to explain why we are the way we are, poor, quote unquote, because I am searching for development. At the same time, at the end of this period, I entered the UN, and I ended up also in the Economic Commission for Latin America, always after prohibition and so on, after development. Let's develop the country. So I'm working on development to find out that this is a law. You know what I mean? It's like the carrot you put in front of the donkey. You know what I mean? You can run, you never get another, etc., etc. In the process, I discover culture. I realized that Haitians from the very beginning have two cultures. And I wrote my PhD thesis with the title, The Oppressed Culture. I was studying in Mexico. I was very much influenced by their conception of the Creole. So I call the dominant culture, well, at that time Mexico was in the process of Castellanization, to teach Spanish to the first nations, because as far as the ideology was, that would help them to develop. They will modernize speaking Spanish, and because their language is not a language, it's kind of dialogue they're speaking, things that are older than French and Spanish, but anyway, so they want to erase that to teach them to speak. So the Creole Mexicans, they were the dominant class. So the dominant culture in Haiti, I call it a Creole culture. as opposed to an oppressed culture, which is the culture of the peasants. No? And I entered in a dichotomy between Creole and Bosal. No? The Haitian Creolized and the Bosal just fresh from Africa. And that gives a false idea of the process, no? But that's not the point. That gives the basis for my study on oppressed culture. And I show how Africa was erased from the history of Haiti because of the dominance of the Creoles. No? Okay, so...
Creole in the sense of those who were born in the Caribbean and who basically
were
assimilated.
With assimilated too, no?
Yeah.
And also, well, I proposed acculturation. So the Creoles were those who was acculturated, who had learned the Western culture, who were ruling the country, who were the elite, etc., etc., etc. You see where I went? I mean, while the other one was speaking Creole, the language, and they were the oppressed culture, they have all sort of other institutions or all sort of other system who were traditional, backward. I would probably not use backward, no, but they were traditional, they were not modern, no? And you had to pull them out of their traditionalism to modernize them. You know what I mean? More or less. Well, that was let's say, one stage. And at the same time, I'm discovering that the UN has 5 or 6 decades, they call it, of development. Always coming back to square one. There was no development, but they were investing in decades of development. And I was working in that following privilege. At the same time, I had used, and since the theory of dependency. I mean, the problem of development in Latin America and the Caribbean is that we are dependent of the large countries, the rich countries, no? And we should try to have a sector of our economy that will pull the other sector, and this sector will control it through a national bourgeoisie. You said, I mean, this was very common in the 60s to explain the situation. And you try to have an independent sector who will be the locomotive, no, to pull to pull the train. You know what I mean, etc., etc. But obviously nobody never had it, or those who had it were co-opted. No, but this is what we were using. But I still was quite insatisfied because that will not take Haiti out of poverty, and not only that, that implies Duvalier as a dictator, the son of Duvalier, etc., etc., an effort by the U.S. to industrialize the country, etc., etc., all coming always back to this poverty. You said, I mean, so this is when I start, first of all, I move out of the idea of development, realizing that development is not bringing us anywhere, no? And therefore, what? In the process of studying the oppressed culture, I found the counter-plantation system. I found the village society. And I was by that time working in Trinidad with my Caribbean friends. I started realizing that plantation, because we are talking development, is the locomotive, the key part of the train, the engine of development, etc., etc. And I accept with them that the bush societies, métayage, not lantaigne, métayage. Métayage, you say that in St. Lucia. Oh boy.
I don't know how to say that actually. Let me look it up.
When you rent the land to somebody, arrendatarios.
Oh, I have an Arabic word for it.
Anyway, so I start thinking of this form of a production, sharecropping, no? Were traditional because you should go into plantation, into trade union, etc., etc. I must tell you also that at the same time when Cuba is making its revolution, Cuba is nationalizing, Cuba is moving forward, and we were all obviously pro-Cuban, etc., etc., etc. So we are seeing that, but this is not working in Haiti. You know, I mean, this is not working. Not only this is not working, the Cubans, in their efforts, are helping Angola. They are helping Bolivia. Haiti is just around the corner. You said, I mean, and etc., etc. So people start to have doubt, And I start seeing that economic development is not giving us result, and we have to think in terms of culture. And I start moving with the counter-plantation system, looking at it at its importance, and I start discovering the need for working with Creole for participation of the people in the development system. No? Okay. So reaching that point, I would say is an article and publish a book called Haiti and its elites, Dialogue of Death. Of deaf people who can't hear. Deaf? Okay. No? And this is the, let's say, the book announcing Haiti and decolonial study. Because it is at that time that I met my friends of the colonial thinking, who thought that my book on oppressed culture, in fact, announces the whole decolonial thinking. Because I was trying to see, and this is the question I was asking myself, since the book on oppressed culture is my PhD thesis, So my PhD thesis is asking, what is it that we have done for ourselves? I mean, plantation, all sort of thing, but we have nothing to do in plantation. That was imposed on us, I didn't raise the question like that, but I could have done it in that book, saying that plantation is not a Caribbean institution. It is the time when Caribbean is called Plantation America. And I said, no, we have something else. Caribbean cannot be English Caribbean, Dutch Caribbean, French Caribbean. Caribbean is Caribbean, period. You know what I mean? There is something we have done which is not English, French, British, or Dutch, what have you. You said, or Spanish. So I start looking for what we have done. This is why I call a dialogue of death, because the elite, is French. The elite speak French. The laws are French, etc., etc., etc. And in one discussion in Ake, I was presenting the book, and somebody said, but what you're saying, there is not an elite, it is an oligarchy. I say, oh God, I should have thought of that, because elite is very simple. If we are 10 shoemakers, the best are the elite of the shoemakers. But if the best do not behave as giving best shoes, they will go down among the others, and other people will come as elite. This is not the case in our societies. These elite of French-speaking people never go down. You see what I mean? Because they are an oligarchy. You see what I mean? So I realized that we do not have an elite. We have an elite, the Vaudou priests, the Mambo, and those are elites. You know what I mean? But those who govern the country, the French speakers, are not necessarily elite. In fact, they are not elite. They are those who are holding us down. And therefore, I start now discovering the decolonial thought. Let me study what we have done, how we have done that. How did the Haitian came to be Haitian, and what makes a Haitian different from a Jamaican, from a Vincentian, or from a Trinidadian? You know what I mean? Because their local history is different. You see, when you take, for instance, I had the good fortune through the Economic Commission to work 10 years in Trinidad. And I tell the Trinidadian, you never knew slavery. You are happy people. And when you think of it, that's true. The Trinidad was Spaniard, no? When Haiti started its revolution, beginning of 1790s, Spain started receiving the planters running away from Saint-Domingue. To such an extent, the Trinidadians speak the same Creole that we speak, and we understand each other. Because they will come to Trinidad with their slaves. You said, I mean, and there are several examples like that. And then the Spaniard and the French planters, no, which Trinidadian call French Creoles, the French planter and the slave will establish Creole as the basic language of the land, together with Spanish. In certain pockets speak Spanish, French, but surtout Spanish and Creole, above all Spanish and Creole. So soon after, the British, Spain ceded the island to the British, no? And in the ceded island, the British has to recognize and acknowledge the internal laws of this land. So the British were governing, and the Trinidadians were speaking Creole and French. You see, I mean, the British were the owner. So I realized at that point in time, no, by 1817, we are 1803, 1804, when the French start flowing in the country. By 10 years or 20 years after, the British stopped the slave trade. And every time they catch a slave boat in the Atlantic, they come with the slave and drop them in, the so-called slave, captive, drop them in Trinidad. So the population of blacks in Trinidad, you know what I mean, are created without slave trades. No? So the slave masters, no, had to take care of the slave because they cannot produce and buy other slaves. They must make sure that they reproduce themselves locally. Not only that, soon after 1838, the British stopped slavery. You see, I mean, so the slavery Haitians have known for 100 centuries with a slave trade is not what the Trinidadian has known, no? And when you go to Trinidad, they are happy going, happy looking people. They have never have problems. They never fight. They do not even know how to fight because they never had to fight. You said, I mean, from the very beginning, the masters have to make sure that they have a slave for tomorrow. You said, I mean, at the beginning. Then slavery become abolished. No, so I told them, you don't know what slavery is. You can imagine that. Not only that, they start with the indentured. You see, I mean, and flooding the country with indentured. So that a whole other dynamic and a whole different sets of, okay. This experience in Trinidad, you know, will come and give me the possibility of seeing local history developing and how we are in our local history producing a way out of quote-unquote our misery. You said, I mean, this is how I went and see the importance of the language, the importance of the community, the importance of the higglers, because a series of such. And I must say also the importance of the yard. I have some strong friends, Jamaican friends, particularly Erna Broadber, who wrote on yards, no? You know, I mean, that is, and the way the yard is important in Jamaica, in Kingston, she wrote that. Me, I'm seeing the word in the countryside. Then you go to Dominica, there are several studies in Dominica and St. Lucia on the family property system. All those are institutions that are Caribbean. It's not that you don't have family property system in France, but it does not characterize the land tenure system. While in our countries, it is the basis of land tenure system. And the work I have used in Dominica shows that those who has land in the land tenure system produce more than those who have land in the etc. etc. So this is how I end up in my my why. That's my why, no? Because I reach a point where I can explain to myself what they call poverty, no? And why we are quite happy in that poverty, if you want to see it that way. Yeah. No, we will be unhappy in the city, because in the city we are not able to reproduce the yard properly, to have our resources to reproduce it.
Okay. That's a great question. Thank you for asking.
My why.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I had to answer it.
Yes, and you give a beautiful answer. So, Jazara.
So, I guess my question is...
And let Thomas.
Oh. So, Creole languages are, like, very important to the Caribbean community, but we, like, refer to English Creole as broken English, or you promote French over Haitian Creole. So my question is, like, what do you think will happen to our communities if we keep
projecting our Creole?
I love this question.
If you keep projecting our Creole,
rejecting. Yeah,
that's suicidal.
If the state apparatus.
Okay, but first of all, let me say that I have an unproven theory, and I'm trying to convince some linguists to work on it because I cannot, but they font la sourde oreille. They don't pay attention. Forget about the English Creole and French Creole because they are identified. They exist. They are bodies. They are their syntaxes. They are their vocabulary. They are their word. For instance, I don't go. Make I see you. You know what I mean? These exist. They are there to see. My problem starts when I speak with the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans. They speak Spanish. They speak an imperial language. Yet, I'm pretty sure that this imperial language carries a historical tradition that depart from the Castilian, not even Spanish, from the Castilian tradition.
So
you said, I mean, and they must have concept like we have like whites, which is not white, like black, which is not black. Like you say, I mean, and this is what I call linguistic archaeology. I want somebody to tell me what is the Puerto Rican or the Dominican or the Cuban, are producing, you know what I mean, that define them and make them different from the imperial, from the Castilian. You said, I mean, okay. Now, in our case, the problem, basic problem, and this is a problem with France and the French, UNESCO and so on. They have, to justify their existence, they come with the idea of universality. You know what I mean? The universal civilization, universal God knows what. And they want to destroy all diversity. You said, I mean, and our elite buy into that universal things. You said, I mean, and they will tell you, for instance, if the Haitians speak Creole, they will be isolated. I say, let's go quiet. Haiti has now 8 to 12 million. When I visited Curaçao, they had 90 million. 90,000. 90,000. One day I was living in Trinidad and I wanted, Trinidad is very strict, quite British, and you cannot buy everything, IBM, everything is controlled. So I'm going to Curaçao, which is a commercial place. I have to buy something from IBM. But I don't know where IBM is. So I come on the street, I saw a fellow, well, he should know. I asked, where is IBM? He said, no, I don't know. Ask that lady. And the lady is selling fruits. So I tell the lady, sorry, excuse me, where is IBM? In what language do you want the information? The lady is from Curaçao. She speaks Papamento. But she speaks Dutch, she speaks English, she speaks French, she speaks all sorts of language. I could choose the language to receive my information. Because in Curaçao, as they would say, Papamento está by school. They teach Papamento in the schools. You know what I mean? And the people speaking Papiamento can learn and speak because of the commercial, any language you want. You know what I mean? They are not isolated by Papiamento. Papiamento helps them to be linked with the others. You see what I mean, no? So if we manage and control our local languages, Jamaican, Haitians, Vincentian, etc., and we can find out what is the specificity of our language, together with others. We learn to appreciate our language, to appreciate their language, and to appreciate us, who have invented a way of respecting everybody. Yeah. You said, I mean, so to my mind, this is the point. And this is not a theory, but I don't know how to call it. They are a venom. They are putting down, if Haiti speaks Creole, they will be isolated. Aren't we isolated now? And since when do we speak French? If France just learn how to speak French, but just learn, it's 100 years. I mean, French is I don't know English is what they told me. French is the language of the administration and of Paris. And French was imposed on the provinces of France to strengthen the central power. No? And it remains, Eugene Weber presents that in his book, Le Parler des Terroirs. No? Mm-hmm. It's really important because French is not a country that come from all French people. No, no, because French was a country of peasants. And the plantation is the first capitalist rational economic concern. No, this is why when you have English in Jamaica, you have Creole English, Jamaicans speak Creole English, period, all Jamaicans. While in France, you leave one village, you go to another one, you cannot understand what they're saying because they have a small microclimate, micro-village without this connection that would give you, in the end, intercomprehension. You said, I mean, this is a fact. And when they say Haiti, and then, well, let's say Haiti speak French. From colonial time up to now, please, please, no? Now they find that insolent and insultant that in some Canadian and French university, they request the Haitian to present a kind of TOEFL examination to prove that this French. And this is a fact. They don't. I teach at university, now is university student who really cannot present an essay in proper French.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's also like interesting on top of that how they keep that structure in like French Canada, despite even French Canadians being treated as lesser in the French eyes, because they call Canadian French disgusting French, like they call it lesser French. So it's funny how even in Canada, where it's like their French is deemed lesser, they still keep.
Yes, because they have the English also. Because they have the English, they think is better.
Yeah.
I mean.
So this is really, really, really good. So we've had an amazing set of questions, and I wanted to follow up on Jazara's question. And here I want to go back to the UNESCO issue, because we heard this very eloquent plea from Ambassador Dominique Dupuy asking UNESCO, on what grounds are you classifying Creole languages as lesser languages? They are languages, that's it. But your work, one thing which I love about your work is that you show the beauty and power of Haitian Creole. You show the richness of the vocabulary and how the vocabulary can tell us so much about our history. And those facts that you put out so beautifully, words like race, habitant, moon, nègre, blanc, blanche, you show that mulat, that all these words, for them to have evolved as semantics, in fact, that's yet another argument against the idea that Creoles evolved from pidgin. Because you see, a pidgin is supposed to be like a tabula rasa, an empty void of language from which you create a new language. And your argument is that, no, look at all this richness in the language, you see? So I want to stress that, because often we still find in various circles the notion that Creoles evolved from pidgins, and yet you've given us, through history, yet another set of arguments against that view. You see, and one thing which I wanted to ask you as well is, so in your introduction to your lecture on Monday, you were introduced as a historical sociologist, right? But when I speak to you, I often speak to you as a linguist. You see, what you tell me about Creole, about our national language, you share all this data that I, as a linguist, can so deeply appreciate. You see, so I want to ask you, so why are you being called a historical sociologist when, in fact, so much of your work is linguistic? And here, actually, I'm playing David's advocate, right? I don't want to say that, you should be one or the other. I just want to hear you talk about the role that linguistics and language make it even more explicit, how it plays into your work as a sociologist and as a historian, because I love it, and I think that in a way you give us a model of how the human sciences can really operate together to discover our humanity, our common humanity. So so I want to praise you for that, but I want you to say something more about it.
Let me say that this idea comes from the group of friends with whom I unite every year, the Maya Logones Decolonial School. No, it's a summer school we have every year during 3 weeks or 3 weeks, no, in Holland, organized by the University of Utrecht and Duke University is a center with Walter Mignolo. No? And they do not believe in disciplines. This group is formed by philosophers, historians, economists, sociologists, artists, of performers, and all sorts of artists, and we are thinking. And oh, I forgot Catherine. She's a sociologist and activist. Catherine. But anyway, and this group, no, they do not even speak of university. They speak of pluriversity. You know what I mean? I mean, this is, we have to save our plurality. We have to save our diversity, because this is what I was saying on the universality that French and the capitalist system want, because they want one universal civilization, God knows what. No, 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 no. We will probably have that universal thing. I won't be there to look at it. But when we all in our diversity, we contribute, now we are negotiating maybe a university. For the time being, it's pluriversity. So therefore, you raise the question. How is Haiti so, quote unquote, poor? So I say, God, hold on. What is Haiti? Well, the Haitians, what is a Haitian? No? For instance, the Vate say a Haitian is anybody living in the country having no other place to live. So the Tanos as Haitian as all others are Haitians. Okay, but if they came from Africa one by one, how come they become Haitians or whatever other countries you have, no? And you see what are the institutions and the process. And local history become the heart of your reflection. Local history. I mean, by local history, it's not the local history you find in the archives, because in the archive you will find the local history of those who won the war. You see, I mean, so you have to see you people. Who is speaking? Because and to whom are you speaking? You are speaking to you people. You have to explain to them what is it that they have done themselves. This is why I cannot accept that the Caribbean will be British Caribbean, French Caribbean, Spanish Caribbean. Come on. Where is the Caribbean, therefore? I mean, are we British? Are we French? Are we? No, 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 no. We are Caribbean. And we have made certain number of things. But not because we are Caribbean, we are all similars. We have also a variety in that, no? And this is, for instance, a real problem when they say we are blacks. We are blacks. Okay, black is an invention of the colonial world, no, of the modern colonial world. The modern colonial world want us, all of us, to be the same so we can do whatever they want. So, for instance, the richest blacks among our black will teach the other black. No, 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 no. We all have our values, we all respect ourselves, and we want to listen to you. You want you to listen to us, no? And out of this variety of blacks, if you want to call them blacks, I don't call them blacks, but that's okay, no, etc., etc. And I think this is something you have while you're conquering your sovereignty. For instance, as far as I'm concerned, Haiti, 1791, was able to join together people from different nations of Africa and create Haiti. No? But when you reach, for instance, 2010, 2011 in the US, you see all the oppressed of the US come and say, Black Lives Matters. You see what I mean? And when you look at those who are saying that, you have to make an effort to find all the blacks. You find all the people that are the most exploited is the black. But you find all sorts of Latins, all sorts of Americans, all sorts of whites who have been exploited, and their Black's life matters. You know what I mean? And if this respect for the life of the oppressed become effective, if you can impose that on the dominant system, I think many things are going to change. In fact, what you have is the end of an era. You know what I mean? An era that is the era where life does not matter, period. You know what I mean? There is a wonderful movie that just come out, Don't Look Up. I don't know if you see. That's a wonderful. Life does not matter. Simply not. You know what I mean? They have to make more money. It's a nice movie. It's sad, really. It's sad, but it's comical. I mean, it's cynic. Yeah. I don't know more than sad. It's cynical. No more than, you said, I mean, this is the point. We are saying Black Lives Matters. We are saying life matters, period. The life of the earth, the life of every life matters. And if you can reach that point, you stop that system defined as a producer of inequality. I mean, this is the point, because black is simply an element of inequality. You can imagine that fellow made a mistake, and he called all those indigenous people, all those Indians. But that's his mistake. Why should I carry that mistake today when I know it's a mistake? This is worse, you know what I mean? This is the problem, no? How in Trinidad we call East Indian, well, why should I say East Indian? And we are supposed to be West Indians. A set of mistakes, eh? Because West Indians originally, you know where it ends, no? In the Philippines. Everything that was from the West was West Indians. From us, America, way down to Philippines. That was the West Indian. I mean, this mistake, I don't have to carry it in the 21st century. You see what I mean? So,
okay, so it's 2:57, so we should think of closing. But I see that Meredin, so can you make it?
You have a question?
Yes.
So, like, this whole idea, it's like, how do we have these conversations how do we have these conversations outside of the classroom? And like, if black and race is a social construct.
No, I don't get you. Come again.
Oh, like, how do we have these types of conversations outside of the classroom? Because we are having it, and it's like a difficult conversation. And also, like, if black and race are a social construct, then what are we supposed to identify with, especially like in a country where, you know, Americans really like to categorize things. So it's like, what do we do? Like, for me, I struggle. I struggle a lot to say what I am. Like, I am Dominican, I am Caribbean, but like in the US, they do focus a lot on like race. So it's like, what are we supposed to?
No, I cannot tell you. What I can tell you is that it's a matter of local history. In Haiti, we end up creating the Haitians. In Jamaica, we end up creating the Jamaicans. In Haiti or in Jamaica or in any country of the Caribbean, blacks are the majority. No? Then I will tell you about the Dominican Republic, something that I am the only one to accept. Not the Dominicans, not the Haitians. Make me remember that. You know, the problem is local history. Blacks in the US are 1 out of 10. In Haiti, we are 99 out of 100, or in most Caribbean countries. So blacks is what exists. So you cannot say, one day I told a friend, in Haiti, if you say black is beautiful, you know what they're going to tell you? Is there anything else? Because we're all black. How do you want it not to be beautiful? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Okay.
So it's too, I know that Tom
you have to finish.
Has to close,
okay.
Right, Tom? Yes. So.
No, I haven't finished me.
Oh.
But if he has to
okay.
finish, that's
okay, so get
okay, let me try to. So I think this is where the local history. I can understand the U.S. African American ending up identifying himself as black, because this is what unite them. That their local history. That is not our local history. You said, I mean, and I can tell you I suffer for that. But because I went one day and say something about blacks, I said, well, in Haiti, blacks, that's not an issue. Oh boy, imagine. Okay, that's one thing. You see, so the problem is to see how black appears in a given context. Now for my Dominican Republic problems. I told the Dominican Republic say black, that's in Haiti. I'm not black. I'm a dark Indian.
Yeah.
But not a black. Obviously, this is scandalous for those who are not Dominican public, except Jean Casimir. Because I say, listen, go to Dominica, the island of Dominica, an island which have received a large part of land as a reserve where the Amerindians or the Dominicans lives, no? And they reproduce themselves. In their society, since colonial time, men who make a kid with, I mean, they are Indians, they are not Taínos, Carib. Men who have an offspring with a black woman, no, the kid is Amerindian, is Carib. Women of the Caribs who make a kid with a black outside, the kid is black. So you can imagine, you cannot distinguish between black and because if you're living in the Caribbean, among the Caribbean, you're Carib, no? And if you, etc., etc. Okay. If you are in Dominican Republic, you are a Ladino or you are a slave brought by Christopher Columbus, no, and you get in marronage, you go and you are received in an Indian, a Taino community. You have a kid, the kid is going to be black. He's to be Taino, period. He's not black, no matter how the color is, and so on and so forth. Now, if you are receiving blacks in Haiti, no, and they will come in the DR, they are blacks because they are not born in an Indian society. You see what I mean? So I find normal that the Indians say the Haitians are black, they are not black. You know what I mean? They are Indians, dark Indians, but they are Indians. Because this is the population. Now, Christopher Columbus, yeah, that's a good slip. Called Rafael Leonidas Trujillo. No, we'll use that the slip. We'll use that, no, to make of the black something different and to discriminate against the Haitians and also to discriminate against the black Dominicans, no? Because etc., etc. But I am not supposed to carry the sin of Mr. Rafael Leonidas Trujillo the same way I don't want to carry the sin of Columbus, no? So I have to acknowledge the normal Dominican is right. Blacks is Haitian. He's not dark, well, but nobody accepts that. Eh?
Yeah, but you see, that one thing that you also might have mentioned, but it's a whole discussion that there's no time to get into, that in Haiti, there is colorism, right? So like if that's mixed with class. So there's that famous saying of Acao that a rich black is a mulatto and a poor mulatto is black, right?
No. Providing he knows how to read and write.
Exactly. So anyway, so that's a whole. We have no time for that. So let's be extremely thankful, and let's give a big round of applause to Professor Casimir.
That was nice. I applaud to you for your questions. You enlightened me sufficiently. Thank you very much.